my housemate has had a my housemate has had a temperature.
Oh man. Okay, that's not a good information to start with, but we are live right now. We are all joined remotely from various places. Today we are joined by our old good friend Anthony. Hi, Anthony. Finally, we were thinking when was the last time when you joined us for the umbraCoffee, or if it was a time. We can see you're equipped, well equipped. How are you guys? How are you, Callum? Still safe? Still good?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. Busy week, as I was saying earlier. I've been working on a big upgrade project, but it's been good fun. It's keeping busy. How about you?
I was also busy with various topics, and not done too much coding this week, to be honest. But it was very good and productive week. Anthony, what about you?
This week has been all about getting everyone up to speed with working from home. This week and last week, actually. Going pretty good. It's surprising how easy it is using Zoom and Slack when everyone's kind of pushed into it. There was a lot of resistance in the whole business community of using Slack literally a month ago, and then suddenly everyone's forced to use it, and no one's really complaining.
Yeah, that's super interesting as well, because the company you work within is huge. Well, a lot bigger than maybe the companies that Marcin and I would work with.
Yeah.
So, and I guess with that comes a lot of organizational
challenges.
Baggage, shall we say?
Baggage, yeah, that's a better word. Yeah.
But it went well. Are you finally switched to? You're working remotely right now, all of you, right?
Yeah, the whole company is remote, actually. So there's almost 200 people in the company, and literally we only started using Slack company-wide a few weeks ago. The digital department has been using it since 2014. But yeah, the company's embraced it, and communication is going really well. We had a retrospective last Friday about how the processes are going and any concerns people had, and the general feeling was, yeah, the communication is actually happening. People are still productive. What's the big deal?
So. Yeah, I think we've been talking about it a lot last week, and also on the Friday's bar with the people who joined us on the afternoon. How it affects and how in the long term it might leave the legacy, because people now see that maybe those fancy offices are not that required. Maybe those whole types of meetings and face-to-face stuff is also not that much important if work is just ongoing and coming good after all. And we've seen a lot of blog posts, a lot of activities from various companies. Anthony, you've been also blogging a lot about working from home and tips for people. So maybe you can start from analyzing some of those mentions and topics, because Candid Contributions podcast, great community members from Umbraco, also released an episode about remote work. And I didn't have chance to listen to the whole episode, but it's one more input in the audio format this way about the remote pro tips, and girls some of them were already working remotely, if I remember correctly.
I think all of them.
All of them, yeah. Not Carol was probably working from the office before, sure. Right? Yeah.
But this episode, they got a bunch of people from the community on to talk about their remote work, but also interaction with the community, which was super cool. They had Janae from obviously like West Coast US and Nathan from Australia, so huge spread of remoteness, which is cool. I've not had a chance to properly listen to it yet. It's on my to-do list for the weekend.
Yeah, it's really surprising how easy it is to communicate. A lot of companies were afraid of remote working and afraid of letting people work from home, but now they're forced into it. I think this is going to change the world forever. Companies won't have the excuse anymore of, we really need you in the office. It's more about productivity and delivering business value, commercial value.
Saw someone yesterday on Twitter saying all of these companies that are telling their staff, no, you can't work from home, after this week are going to realize that other companies are going to swoop in and go, we'll offer you the same salary, save all your commute time and your commute costs. You can work from home. And it doesn't cost that company anything more to do it, but employees will literally be snatched from companies' hands.
Oh yeah.
Embrace it.
Yeah, the whole workforce has been becoming remote over the last few years. I mean, just working at Cogworks, we opened up the office in Krakow, but we also had remote workers. Marcin, you're in Warsaw, and we also had Ali in Barcelona, and Ismail in sunny Preston, and also remote contractors. So, and now I'm getting approached by outsourcing companies that are in like Belarus and all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
So working from home is going to be the norm.
We've been talking about it for years, and as I said today, even in the morning, I was doing remote work before it was cool or popular. I'm doing it for 8 years, and I wouldn't change it for anything. And as you can see, various challenges are coming along with it, but yeah, I wouldn't change it. So I'm happy to help everyone and share my expertise as well. And thanks to community members who are doing it, probably it's easier for also people who are right now faced with it because it's not for everyone, right? We need to mention that it's not for everyone, and not all of the people will find themselves happy and productive working from not only from home but remote in general. So it's worth mentioning all the time that it's worth trying, and right now we are all let's say forced to try it. And after all, we'll find out if it's for us, if it's for our companies, who done better, who is worse than in that, and maybe who needs an office and who don't need it at all right now. Maybe
I think it's definitely being compounded, or the experience will be far more intense than it maybe would be normally. With everybody working from home, you're basically stuck with the people in your household, and like in the UK at least, we're allowed to go out and have a little bit of exercise each day, but keeping healthy, keeping sane is difficult. I've noticed my sleeping hours have drastically changed. I've been trying to eat my fruit, so I had a chocolate orange for breakfast. Like
a chocolate orange.
Things do go out the window a little bit. I was saying yesterday with Ravi and Lottie that actually I do hope that events and everything that's now going virtual doesn't stay virtual entirely, because we can't forget the importance of actual human interaction as well. But it's a really interesting lesson for everyone.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges is a lot of companies and leadership don't actually know what's involved in keeping people productive and communicating. So that's why I started writing some blog articles, because having this experience and knowing that there's so many other companies out there that have never done this before, something as simple as a Monday morning catch up, that really is super important, because that's really important because it's one of the only chances that you get to see faces that you don't work with. I mean, there's plenty of people that I don't work with day to day, but being able to see them once a week is really important.
Yeah, and you've mentioned faces, because I think it's also important to not hide behind the muted microphone, disabled cameras. I think it's more and more important these days when you are not able to see those people on a daily basis, to just unreveal some of the realities and just stay yourself and just be present. And you've said about it. Maybe we can also mention the Umbraco initiatives about it, because Friday bars, for example, which we've started a while ago, and as an afternoon chats, also evolved on some companies. We are also doing social, which is not work related catch up on Friday, besides the Monday catch up related totally with work. And as you've said, it's not done without a purpose, because people just need to stay up to date with what's going on, be able to share their voices and discuss stuff with someone else than normal people around us.
Yeah. And it's really important to see people as well, because as humans, we didn't really evolve to be not social. We're meant to be social. So we need to actually see faces. We can't just do voice calls or just text. So it's not as real as something in person, but it's as good as you can get, and I think it's quite important to get that human connection.
Yeah, definitely. And as Marcin mentioned, there's a bunch of community initiatives ongoing to help with this in the Umbraco community and many other tech communities around the world. Later today, we have the what have they called it? The Funky Umbra Friday Bar.
It's very friendly and easy to pass over name.
All the keywords in there. But so this is as Marcin mentioned, we've done like an unofficial past couple of weeks, and HQ got something special planned this week with some a quiz and some stuff at 3 p.m. UK, 4 p.m. Europe. But that's
still need to register.
Yeah,
you need to register.
It's too late, but maybe you can message Arnold or someone. Sorry, Arnold.
Okay. Okay, sorry. Give me a sec.
And of course we mentioned some of the meetup groups going online too. I know that yesterday, I think this might have been the first virtual physical meetup of the year, which was the Edinburgh meetup. They did their monthly meetup as on Zoom, and they had 18 people show up, which is good. I think Owen said that's the most people they've had in a room in years, which it opens doors up to people that maybe aren't in the local area to come along. And Leeds are doing the same thing next week, I believe. So that's on Thursday next week. They've got Paul Seal joining. He's going to do a little chat. I guess they'll share the Zoom link around for anyone that's not in Leeds that wants to come. But
yeah, and if I've seen correctly, some people, of course, not from Edinburgh, joined the Edinburgh meetup yesterday.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
It does keep things more accessible. Yesterday, the London team had our little chat about what we're going to be doing over the next few months to keep things social, and we were discussing the pros and cons of doing things like streaming the talks on YouTube, which we're going to try and discourage because we want people to actually join and chat rather than just watching along. Just how we can make it more inclusive. It shouldn't be about building like building a virtual meetup that everyone can attend every single day of the week, but having the option for people that wouldn't normally be able to join. Warren's a good example in London. It's pretty far for him to come along, but he can join virtually. Maybe that's easier. So experimenting.
Yeah. And you've showed some polls as well, right? Asking people for the best time zones and time in general, right?
With being in person, we would normally be restricted to like
after working hours
and at a decent time, not too late, not too early. When people are at home, there's other considerations. If they've got kids, like 6 p.m. might actually be prime feeding the kids and getting them to bed or something time. Whereas they may prefer something earlier or later or at a lunchtime. I have no idea. So we were open to some options, and we'll experiment, I think.
Yeah, and it gives other people options that are in different time zones.
Yeah. That's great, and as you've said, it's temporary, hopefully, for all of the meetings, and some big organizations like NDC are also switching to the whole new world, and let's see where it will go, and we can just encourage people to join as many meetups as they can, and it's great to be able to join meetups which are not usually on our radar, and I've seen some AI meetups, for example, or some Azure or deployment-oriented meetups, which are probably not possible for me to join. And right now, I'm able to join. I'm able to see the content and learn some new stuff from people who I will meet for the first time in my life, virtually this time, but maybe not for a lifetime.
Yeah. Can you talk about Umbraco? Like, obviously, related, but this happened last week. It's so easy and so nice to talk about all the stuff going on, and of course, it's in the context of Umbraco. But there's actually still stuff going on in the community.
Yeah, but that's true, and it's all affecting the community life, and but I think it's also reflecting how we adapt to the whole situation, and Umbraco how adapts as well about the social stuff, and not only. But besides socials, of course, and those challenges, remote work, and so on, the product is still being developed. It's still evolving. Community is still doing things around it, and maybe we can start from the most probably important release about Umbraco. It's Umbraco 8.6 release, which was a release candidate for a while, and it's planned for next Tuesday. Tuesday. And as far as I know, there are some really great fixes inside of it. I've been playing with a release candidate in my open source work recently. It works fine. It has some bugs which were fixed and adjusted. So we are all expecting this release. And we've mentioned Kevin Jump last week, probably, who is already adapting, using, and all the packages work to the latest releases. But other creators are also doing a great job. And we wanted to highlight Vendor, which is also going to be released
Tuesday. It's a mega release week next week.
Yeah. Plus, Matt and the whole team did a great job with documentation, and I must say I'm amazed. Even the previous packages done by Matt were always great. Always had a great documentation, and this one is even a step beyond that. I need to check those tools for some of the documentation, which I want to do as well. So yeah, we are all looking forward to it. And e-commerce market is also going to be competing again, probably, because there will be more alternatives on the Umbraco level. And the second one is e-commerce. So I didn't use e-commerce in the past. I don't know, what about you guys? Did you use e-commerce in the past?
Not extensively.
No, I've used T-commerce and Michello.
Yeah. So e-commerce is a commercial package, commercial addition to Umbraco, and it has new version which is already released or will be released. This Wednesday. So for everyone who is looking for e-commerce solutions based on top of an Umbraco or next to Umbraco, that's another thing on the radars. And packages. Maybe we can start from Anthony. Anthony, we've been highlighting your packages and your recent work in your team a couple weeks in a row. Can you tell us more how you started doing it in your new organization, and how you convinced people to do more open source?
Didn't actually take convincing from the dev's perspective. We use a lot of open source software, and plus using Umbraco, we use all the open source packages. So we were thinking, okay, we've created some cool functionality in recent client websites, so let's turn this into packages. So the first one we did was our Umbraco tables, which is just a table builder using rich text editor as the components of each cell. It's quite nice. We actually built that for an internal tool, and then decided, okay, let's make this modular. We'll rip it out and release it. The next one was, I believe, the environment dashboard. So this one is really helpful. We created a dashboard for a new website that we were building, and it became really basically the background is it became really annoying having to wonder, okay, am I on the dev environment or the QA one or the UAT one or the production? So we needed something that would make it more obvious that we were connected to a certain environment. And looking at the URL, that's not always obvious either. I mean, yes, the URL is naming convention based with UAT and QA, but it's not always obvious to someone that's not a developer. So someone that's a PM, like, they don't want to have to look at the URL and determine based on 2 characters in what environment they're connected to.
It's not always clear for developers as well.
Exactly. So so the whole background behind this was which environment am I connected to, but also in the past I've seen issues with connection strings being wrong. So if for some reason there was some problem with your config transform or your deployment pipeline didn't inject a connection string into Azure App Services properly, you may be thinking, okay, I'm just gonna delete some content on the QA environment, and you're deleting production content maybe. So this also shows shows connection string, the current connection string, and we decided to make this into a package. We ripped it out, made it super modular, opened it up to the community to help actually before we even released it, because we were just trying to validate our ideas and our architecture. So I got some great help, and it was released a few days later.
So this is, because there's been similar packages before. Like I know Lee Keller has got his environment indicator package for the favicons, but obviously here you can actually include like more additional content with it. So
yeah,
the version of some DLL you're running or something.
It's totally pluggable. So if you're using say, I don't know, Elasticsearch, and you want to know something about your index, you can plug a row in, and it's all based on Umbraco's composer patterns. So it's super easy. You can do anything. If you're using Azure Search, plug something in for Azure Search to show the health of your indexes.
Awesome.
It's really nice.
The final one that you released was Odin.
No, not Odin. Gandalf.
Oh, no. That was another thing, wasn't it? That was Odin.
Odin was in when we were at Cogworks, and it was, I think it was the Trello automation.
Yeah, it was the Trello automation. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's Gandalf.
So the recent one, 2 weeks ago, Gandalf, the white listing IP dashboard.
Someone suggested this name after it was released, right?
That's the official name, Gandalf, the white listing IP dashboard.
And basically, it's for being in charge of whitelisting IPs who can access back of front end of the website, public side, and straight from Umbraco back office. So without messing around with web configs and Azure maybe or other hostings configurations, right?
Yeah, I mean this is a very specific use case. The ideal scenario would be you have control over the infrastructure, and you can add IP addresses as you wish. But if you don't have access to the infrastructure, your only other option really is I don't know, if you're on Cloudflare, then that's an option, but that's also normally managed by a client or some IT team or something. So your only other option really is application level. It's not ideal. It's not the first thing that I would go to, but there is a use case for it.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. And we've seen some on Twitter, right? Because I remember the chats about cloud and also use cases which are outside of administration level.
Yeah. So the great thing about this is there's a enable disable button, and if a website needs to be launched at 7 a.m., I don't want to be awake at 7 a.m. launching a website. So the client can do this. Or a project manager or anyone. It doesn't need someone to log into Cloudflare and disable a firewall rule, which frankly is terrifying for anyone at 7 a.m. So this is just a click of a button.
Yeah, awesome, nice. And we had some other releases this week as well. Richard Soderman teased out with the preview of CMS import for V8. Which is
greatly anticipated. This one, he's been working on this for maybe a year now, I think.
It was very awaited package.
There's a lot of improvements that people wanted in the V7 version that he said have been put in here. I can't remember. I think maybe something to do with rich text editors, macros. Not sure.
Yeah, some great improvements, and people were also asking about it in terms of being able to migrate between sites, not only between Umbraco versions, but also between other sites into V8, and it was used extensively for those purposes in the past. So it's great that it's already here, open for testing in a preview. And the second one was the simple time picker, which is a new property editor for picking the time. Integrated with kind of what Umbraco is offering by default in the UI for that, and it's done by Mark. Something new on the packages section. Feel free to test it out. And I can't see right now if it's for V7, so it's still for V7. So that's I love
the namespace that they've used on that package. Did you notice? It's spidyweb.umbraco.
Namespaces are also interesting. But one thing which we didn't mention at the beginning, but it's kind of important for all of the forms users, is a security advisory for Umbraco Forms in version 8. I heard myself in the echo.
Yes, no, we can't hear you. Well, we can hear you. Can't hear you double.
Okay. Yeah, so that was announced on March 24th. And again, information about who is impacted, some small details about the problem, and how we can fix it, basically.
This is a really interesting issue, because this stems from the very initial migration of Umbraco Forms to V8, and I believe what it's boiled down to is the kind of order in which they're registering some dependencies. But effectively, this was something reported by the community, where they were seeing if you had an email workflow and 2 people submitted the same form at the same time, they might get or they will get each other's details. So it exposes potential customer data. But it's a concurrency issue, and it's like, okay, what's the chance of someone actually both pressing the form at the same time? For people that do use forms heavily, maybe quite high. I know that Franz, he said the way they replicated it was 2 people in their office said 1, 2, 3, go, and press the button at the same time. That was just enough that it replicated it. HQ went away, and they basically found under high load, you can replicate it. Someone even managed to say within the space of 10 minutes, I believe. That might be completely wrong. There was something in here, a rather large amount of time between the 2 submissions happening. Maybe, I guess, if they're still both processing or both submitting, that you would also get this issue. And then Alan McKenna really pushed HQ to treat this as a security issue rather than just a defect in the product. And they fixed it, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and I must say that the conversation on the issue is also very great and very valuable for everyone who wants to just see how issues are being discovered and replicated and handled by Umbraco. So we'll of course link it out in the episode, so you can find it out and see where it's going. But the most important output from it is to be ready and patch your sites if you are using Umbraco Forms in version 8.
Yes.
That's about important things. We have some other mentions and things to be discussed. Where we should start?
Let's start with Jarek.
Yeah,
this is not directly Umbraco news, but this is awesome. So for those that don't know, Jarek works at Crumpled Dog in London, and he is doing. He loves running. He does marathons all over the world. He's nuts. But he also does this like Garmin or Strava art, where like you have your fitness tracker and it tracks your route, and it will paint a picture. So he, in this case, I think that's a giraffe he's drawn on Strava, and this is a whole like community in itself. People doing running art. But Jarek was featured on a not so popular newspaper in the UK.
Yeah, but I thought about challenging Umbraco community. We have this the whole running
Umbraco runners.
Yeah, Umbraco runners on every event. And if I would be running again, I can challenge ourselves and the whole community to draw an Umbraco logo next time when it will be possible.
Well, that's a good idea. I'm sure we can do an Umbraco logo. Someone can manage that. I'm not volunteering, but
a massive one.
Yeah,
the size of the UK.
I must say, me and you running with the Umbraco logo, two streets next to the single block, probably done.
Yeah. It'll be a square.
It would be our first MVP in the running competition.
You got to go outside and get exercise.
Yeah. We are freaking out without it, but that's true. That's great. It's very interesting to see something like that. I was really amazed by, and I haven't seen anything like that in the past, to be honest. And I didn't know that it's even possible. It's even a thing.
And the next thing this week about newspapers, which was that HQ, everyone's struggling right now companies are struggling. But HQ have taken out a couple of ads in their local newspaper in Unza to support the community, and they took out a full page to post like a friendly message that said about sharing is caring. You know, it's not really an ad for Umbraco; it's just more of a positive message. But that's really cool, and they're going to buy a few, so I hope to see more of these in the coming days. That would be cool.
Yeah, that was really great, and not in the newspaper, but we had also some activities around the blogs. Besides all of your activities, Anthony, which we've already mentioned and highlighted on the previous episodes, we had a Umbraco Spark summary from Carl, and it's a really well-written, complex summary of what happened in the Spark, and still reminds us that about the last Umbraco community event, which happened in the real life. The big community event besides the meetups, which were also happening the week after. So if you haven't been there, if you want to catch up and see what are the Carl's conclusions and observations after the Umbraco Spark, visit the Rock Solid Knowledge blog and read it. That's about blog posts and publications, and we also have two
JavaScript divorce.
JavaScript divorce.
No, Angular divorce, isn't it? So
we should have a highlight here right now. the breaking stuff.
Because Nathan's been cracking on with the divorce from AngularJS, but it's not really, because it's more about decoupling some of the things that are tightly dependent on stuff that actually exists in native code. And one of the big bits of progress this week is that they've got a utilities class, utilities bit of JavaScript now inside the back office, so that they can start replacing some of the stuff with like something that at least Umbraco manage. Two things have been sorted, still a few things to do. Nathan was trying to encourage people that are sitting at home with nothing to do to get involved, and actually looking at some of these tasks, they're pretty well broken down and quite digestible. Even if you weren't an AngularJS expert, you could probably work out what needs to be changed. They're really descriptive, so there's another way to get involved.
Yep, that's great to also see that HQ is involved, and also other community members. And some of us asked, Anthony, I don't know if it wasn't you, asked if it has a Go from the Umbraco, and it's broken down, yep. So it's all discussed, and there's still a lot of issues on GitHub being discussed about it. But if anyone wants to add something else to this topic, help in the migration or ongoing process, just join here. And I already shared it with our front-end team members. Everyone can help, even by sharing opinions and maybe sharing tools and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think this is a really important first step that no one really considered up until Nathan brought it up. Everyone was talking about the next framework, or whether we should go to TypeScript, timesheets, TypeScript, but no one ever really considered, okay, let's strip back the Angular stuff and just use native JS, vanilla JS. So yeah, I think this is a really important step to decouple Angular, and then we can have a conversation about whether we go TypeScript and whether we go to Svelte or not.
Or JS or March 2018.
Or just the next fancy frameworks.
Yeah.
But it's a good movement of avoiding dependencies and being only dependent from technology, which is really behind everything right now in here and there, which is cool and great to see. Real life.
Oh dear me. Cool. And I think we had one last thing, which was from Marcin.
Yeah, it was my call to action, call for help again, about webinars and knowledge which we want to share. Callum, can you?
If I've understood this correctly, I'll just try and read from the screen. That if anyone's interested in getting some webinars, online webinars for some various topics that Cogworks know about. So that's anything from remote working to like Umbraco. Fill in a form. Just want your views, so they can potentially do something in the future.
Yeah, And it's widely open for community participation. We want to just do something when we are all remote, and maybe instead of doing talks or attending events, we want to share this type of knowledge using webinars formats, which are very popular right now.
Yeah.
Basically, that's it. Thanks in advance for help, and I need to mute myself because I need to.
Webinar on parenting whilst working from home.
I'm not best at it, as you can see.
Cool. Was there anything else? Did we miss anything? Can you think of anything, Anthony?
Umbraco meetup happening
London
in a
meetup.
couple weeks. Yep.
Yeah.
London meetup.
I guess virtual, but yeah, happening some point. When's it? 9th of April. 9th of April. 2 weeks. In 2 weeks.
Better finish my presentation.
Yeah, indeed.
And Friday bar today, right?
Friday bar today, and of course we'll be hosting one every single week that HQ don't. So watch out on Twitter and Slack and elsewhere for links and ways to get involved.
And everyone can join. Everyone can share their thoughts and pro tips for working remotely from home, and not only. It was very, very productive and interesting to see inputs from community members last week. So yeah, see you there probably.
Yeah.
Something else about online stuff. I heard that Umbraco was allowing community members to use their Zoom account so that you can hold longer meetings.
For meetups and community events, yeah, you can reach out to Ilham and they'll give you access.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, which is cool. Oh, Lottie's just corrected me. The London meetup's on the 16th.
16th.
She's right.
Oh, 3 weeks I have.
Because Easter's on the 10th, so we would have been meetings, but yeah. Anyway, cool. I think that's it for this week. As we've said, we'll see you later, probably at the virtual bar, or next week, or somewhere online.
Yeah. Thanks, Anthony, for joining us, and keep it up with the amazing posts coming and contributions for the packages.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Cool.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.